today's watch review, let's take a look at the Casio G-Shock GXW-56. So let's get right into it. For price, you can find these online in the range of $190 all the way up to $400. But realistically, you're looking at spending around $250. Let's go ahead and do a quick 360 just so you can see what we're dealing with here. There's the case back, other side, and here is the bracelet or the band and clasp. Case diameter, we are looking at just under 51 millimeters, and then for depth or thickness, right at just over 16.5 millimeters. For weight, it comes in at 87 grams or 3 ounces, and that's just great, especially considering its size. Going over the functions and features, starting off with the heavy hitters, this watch is a solar powered multi-band 6 watch, so you can rest assured it's always going to be accurate and it's going to last a very long time. I would say at a minimum of 10 years. Also looking at the main display at the top, you've got your calendar data and then your time on the bottom. Coming in a little bit closer, you can see the indication right here. So I've got power saver mode on. So if the watch doesn't detect light for a period of time, then the display will turn off, saving your battery life. And then next to that, you see the RCVD, that means received, meaning that the watch did receive time from the radio tower within the last 24 hours. And then here you can see L, M, and H, and the H is highlighted, meaning that the battery is at a high charge. And now just scrolling through the different menu options, you've got world time, alarm, stopwatch, timer, and then back to main time. It's also 200 meters water resistant with a mineral crystal. And here's the wrist shot for you. I almost forgot. I don't know why I always forget that, but it's definitely a chunky watch. And if you didn't know, I've got a 8-inch wrist. So I definitely have a thicker wrist and it still looks quite impressive on my frame. Let's go ahead and take a look at the backlight. And you can see on the screen it's a very pleasant glow, very similar to your Gulfman's or your Frogman's. You know, no complaints there. The band is a resin strap, really good quality, very tough and reliable, and it's comfortable. It doesn't stick to the skin at all. I very much like how it feels and also how it looks with the dual clasp design. I think it gives it a very modern look, but no complaints with the band. And here you have the side-by-side comparison with a G-Shock Square and the GXW-56, and you can clearly tell the size difference, this one being significantly larger, both in diameter and in depth. But for those of you that prefer a larger digital watch, this is a great option for you. Alright, now just going over some thoughts. So if you didn't know, this model, or really any G-Shock in this frame, is called the King. And I want to say that it's mostly called the King because of its size, but I think there are more reasons than just its size why I consider this to earn the title of King. First of all, build quality is fantastic. It's large, but it's not sloppy. It's very tight, and if you remove the resin bezel or the case cover here, you will see that all the pushers are metal. Everything is just very solid and well put together. And for such a large watch, it still wears extremely well, very comfortable on the wrist, and it's easy to use. The buttons are large, and you'd think they'd be a little bit tougher to press, kind of like a Mudman, but they're easy to push, but you still feel like there's a solid contact with the circuitry inside. You know, sometimes when you've got these big buttons, it just feels like you're pushing something and it feels like you're pushing through mud, and it's just not a pleasant experience, but that's not the case with these ones. It's got great texturing. Overall, just the ergonomics, overall styling, and functionality of the GXW-56 is fantastic. Secondly, I think this watch is the king because of his aesthetics. You know, it might not be the prettiest watch in the world, but it's definitely got all the design features that make a G-Shock a G-Shock. For example, you've got the G-Shock lettering right here, the red tough solar, which really gives it that cool G-Shock look, and then the icing on the cake is definitely this polarized display where you can see that greenish yellowish tint to it, and it's just so cool. And for those of you that are into retro classic style digital watches, this is definitely a watch for you. You need to have this in your collection. And continuing with the style of the watch, I think there's just enough color contrast here on the case body and the watch face or the display for it to really pop out on your wrist without looking overly tacky. And I don't really want the focus to be on the style, because this is a watch that was designed to be used and abused. I would even dare say more than the Mud Master. And the Mud Master is being advertised as the G-Shock that can take the nastiest environments. And honestly, I would prefer the King over the Mud Master, just because it's just a simple, tough digital watch. It doesn't have any fancy analog motors inside of it, so it's gonna survive the worst. And the build quality is fantastic. It's easy to clean, it's easy to wear. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that, about its overall reliability. I think really this is the king as far as the larger G-Shocks go. Now, as far as the value goes, this version is going to run you higher than the standard plain Jane version of the King. I think the regular GX56 goes for around $170, you know, maybe $150, so almost $100 less. Now, is this version worth $100 more? My personal opinion, I'm going to tell you yes, it is definitely $100 more. But that's also because I value things like a polarized display a disproportionate amount compared to other people. You know, if you don't care too much about the colored text or the style of display, if you're fine with a negative display, then I say go for the cheaper version of the King. Really, the main difference aside from the appearance is that those versions don't have multiband 6. But, you know, that's not a priority or a huge deal, because quartz watches, you know, they really don't need to be updated daily. You can set it and forget it for, I would say, you know, a couple of months before you have to worry about resetting the time. So the fact that your King doesn't have a multiband 6 is perfectly fine in my opinion. They're both going to be solar, and they're both going to be super tough and just fantastically large on the wrist. So that's pretty much it for my final thoughts. The G-Shock King, or the GXW-56, so this model specifically is, in my opinion, a G-Shock Hall of Famer for sure. There's no questions about that. If you're a G-Shock collector and you don't have this model, go ahead and get one before the price goes up, because I feel like these are just going to go up and up in price, and you know, they're quickly becoming a collector's item. And if you're not a collector, you're just in the market for a watch, I still recommend this one. You know, obviously there's hundreds of different models out there, varying price ranges, but if this one's in your price range and you like the way that it looks, then go for it, because it will not disappoint and it will last you for a very long time. So thank you for watching. I hope that my video helps you with your next watch purchase, and make sure to tune in for my next episode. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.